Good afternoon, everyone. Lovely day here in Waihi. Bit of rain this morning, bit of rain now, bit of rain on and off. Just had a flat tyre on the Mukba calf feeder. Just had a slow leak, and I was going to take both tyres to town and get tubes put in, and discovered that the tyre on that side has a tube already. So I was taking this one here off, discovered that the bearings are a bit loose, so I got new bearings for it. I'm going to pick them up and got the tyre repaired, so now I'm just going to put it back together. So we pulled the Mukba calf feeder with our Massey Ferguson 35. So now I'm just going to remove the bearings. I've already popped the seal out, so I've got 2 bearings and I've got a seal. So I'm not a mechanic, I don't claim to be a mechanic, but I do like to fix as much of what we own myself. So what I do to get the bearings out is I punch them out. I tend to use my fist when I punch them out. No, I've got this punch here, long punch, which it works well for doing all the bearings, and you put it in till you hit the bearing on the other side, and then so we'll punch that one out first. So it's best to sort of move around the bearing and punch it out, because if you just punch in one spot, you may cause the bearing to come out on an angle, and you either just break the bearing, like the bearings fall out of its race, and then you end up with the race stuck in there, or else you could, I assume you could damage what the bearing sits in, but I've never done that before. But yeah, so I'm going to take you along for a ride. So you push the punch in till you feel the edge of the bearing, and then these bearings may have never been removed. It's promising. So there we have the spacer that goes between the bearings, so when you tighten it onto the shaft with the nut, it stops you squashing or pulling the bearings out of alignment. There's the old bearing. Sounds a bit gritty. And now we'll just punch that last one out. Not the easiest bearings to get up. I would say they have not been replaced in their lifetime. There we go. There's the other bearing to give it a bit of a beating to get out. It's got a couple of chips on it. So this would be a hope that they are the same. There's the old one, new one. Seems to be fine. So now we're just going to give that a quick clean up. Got some rags or something. fine. So when you're putting bearings back in, you find a socket that fits nice and snug so that when you're hitting it down with a hammer, the socket is hitting on that rim. So here I've got some big sockets. You've got to make sure it fits down inside. A good fit. Again, just keep going round and round so you're hitting it down even, not hitting it down on an angle. You can also look with your eyes and you can tell if it's going down on an angle. Nearly there. It's got to go down to, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little, like a step. It's only very fine. Normally they are a little bit bigger than that, but this one's only sort of like half a mil or a mil at the most. Little step that the bearing sits against. There we have it. Right, so we got both bearings in there now. We've got to remember to put the spacer between, because I have, when I've been doing motorbike bearings, I've forgotten to put the spacer in before and had to whack the bearing out. But luckily, kits that I've been using, for some reason they have a spare bearing, because some motorbikes have two bearings on the sprocket side at the back wheel. But the kits we get, they come with two, but we only have, the bike only has room for one, so that's alright. Then we pop the seal in there. Seal goes in, it's just on the back. The front doesn't have a seal. That's on there. Now it's time to fit it back onto the trailer. Right, so here we have the axle that it's going to go on. Just need to give it a bit of a clean up. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a... That's what the bearing sits against the back. The bearing slides up against that, and then you tighten the nut up, which holds it all up on there. So you can sort of see a bearing's been sitting there, and that's where the spacer sits in there. I'm going to put a bit of grease on it so that I can get it off next time. Just like that. Spins much better now. So we've got the nut here. Put the nut back on. It's just a nylock nut. It's got nylon there to stop it undoing. It doesn't have a split pin or anything. Put a bit of grease on the thread so that it doesn't get stuck on there. That's it. So this cap here, which has grease in it, which I'll put a bit more grease in there. I'm pretty sure this cap is just meant to stop any rubbish going in here. It had grease in it. I put a little bit more in it, but I don't see why. Like that's why I'm not an expert. That it needs to have a lot of grease in there because they're sealed bearings, so you can't. Grease can't get into them, I don't think. But just having grease in there stops moisture getting in. Pop the cap back on the other side. So those are just plastic caps. Alright, so there we have it. It's all put back together. I can drive forward and that block will roll forward and should be back on the ground. And, be ready for another day tomorrow. These tractors are really good. This could be one of my favourite pieces of farm machinery. Does quite a bit of work through the year, little jobs. Does a lot of work this time of the year, pulling calf feeder, getting cows and calves. So yeah, thanks for watching. Check us out on Facebook, Family Farming and Fun. Subscribe if you like the video. Click thumbs up if you like it. Share it. Yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.